It's amazing, you know. I mean, I've heard from every cable channel anywhere, if they've got ratings issues, if they want to crank their ratings, put on Roadhouse.
For me, it was like one of the greatest drive-in movie pictures ever. That kind of movie where you just go, this is crazy, but I like it.
Everybody was going to make sure this film had its moment in the sun, and it's been shining ever since.
In a sense, it was almost like a cartoon because it was so large. I mean, you had this giant truck, you know, you had these beautiful girls and this glaring neon and these guys in red shirts. I mean, those were all choices that we made because it's bright, it's big, it's bold.
Roadhouse, in many ways, is a modern-day Western.
Because Westerns weren't being made at that time, you know, we filled a niche. We took that structure and we gave it a new spin.
Just the whole tone of Roadhouse fit in with everything I believe in. I really do believe in this peaceful warrior concept, yet I'm very clear that we have to be trained in order to protect our world. And Dalton, for me, was the personification of that. He's not about ego. He's a philosopher in his own right, and a legend in his own mind.
You have a character in Dalton who is sort of a philosopher, dare I say. He's a humanitarian. He's a guy who's selfless.
Playing this character was a real journey for me on trying to define what is it to be a man these days. Whether we like it or not, dark things exist in the world. And the way to change them is not by lying about them, hiding from them, or acting like they don't exist, but by confronting them head on when you have to. He was a real person who, in many ways, is being destroyed by the lifestyle that he's in, but he can't get out of it. It's just this vicious circle. He's battling cynicism in his life because people are so predictable. He's really explored the dark side, or he wouldn't be able to understand opponents and human nature and how people react and why they react as well as he did. Exploring that dark side is an aphrodisiac for him. As much as he hates it and he doesn't want it, he's drawn to it.
The thing about that kind of a character is that there's a quiet strength, and there's also the idea of a character with a past.
He let ego come into his world at one moment in time and he killed a man, and that's haunted him. But he's also highly educated, has a great sense of style, knows how to dress, and has fabulous hair.
The mullet is something that, you know, is frequently ragged upon, but Patrick was able to really pull it off.
That hair has turned into the bane of my existence once people started saying Swayze invented the mullet. I didn't even know what a mullet was, but sure enough, you got long hair and you comb the sides back, it looks like a mullet.
Patrick's mullet defied gravity and martial arts and explosions and sex and probably water and, you know, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. That's amazing. Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.
Dalton doesn't believe everything he's saying.
It'll get worse before it gets better.
Some of these lines are like, oh my God, shut up.
What am I supposed to do?
There's always barber college.
As a character, I had to say them, believe them, and live by them.
It's my way or the highway.
The line of, we're going to take a break, I got to drain the main vein. I had never heard that phrase before. I thought then, and I think now, it's just stupid.
All right, y'all, we'll be back in 10. We got to drain the main vein, man. Stick around.
So we tried variations on it, you know, got to hit the can, got to take a leak, take a piss, something or other. But it wouldn't do, we had to have the main vein thing in there, so I did it. And if you listen to it, I don't sound very convincing.
I think that the original writer saw Jeff Healey in a bar in Canada and said, boy, that's a great character, and he wrote him into the script.
Basically, the character is me transplanted from Toronto to, where is it, Jasper, Missouri. But it's me as a, you know, guitar player in a bar band, and that's what I was doing at the time.
Jeff being on the set was just like a calming effect with his wild-ass guitar, you know? It's like, whoa!
He's a unique player. There's nobody like him, and it was really fun to watch him.
I've never seen a guitar player faster than this guy. He's truly a gifted being and one of the nicest human beings you'd ever want to meet.
We recorded close to 40 tunes, and all of that in about 2 or 3 weeks because they just rolled the tape. I mean, in the case of Long Tall Sally, which made it in the film, we were just playing to play, and the tape was rolling, and we were playing for, I think there was some people like Rowdy and Joel and a few others that stopped by the studio to hang out, and we were just, you know, hamming it up. And it was recorded, so we kept it.
Some of the things I did to prepare for the role of Dr. Clay were first, work on my mullet, you know. I mean, there's a lot of gravity in having long hair. And then there was something about getting my hair as white as hair could possibly be without falling out of your head. And then there was an idea about getting my skin as dark, like sort of mahogany. And at one point someone said, you need to wear blue contacts. And I said, I think I have blue eyes. Okay, fine, we'll forget that. There was getting the skirts as short as we could possibly get them. And then there was about a month I spent actually in a real emergency room. And I kind of got into the whole idea of, I'm really a doctor, and I learned how to do a stitch. And when it came time to stitching up Patrick Swayze, and I learned that I was going to have a staple gun rather than, you know, doing these beautiful stitches I learned. I threatened to lose my mullet. I don't know that Dalton and Dr. Clay were so opposite of each other.
Being a doctor and the things she's had to deal with in an emergency room, she's probably seen as much horror and the terrible aspects of human nature as he has. So I think there's a real kindred spirit thing that happens between them.
I mean, we both had insanely tan skin and very big hair and very tight clothing on, you know. He was a bouncer and a philosopher. I was an emergency physician and a philosopher.
Her vulnerability came out, her loneliness came out, and the frustration that she had living in this small town and meeting a guy who finally is exciting.
We played the two lost souls coming together from a moment in time and didn't resist that animal aspect. I mean, I've had more people come up to me and say, God almighty, that must have hurt slamming her against that fireplace, you know?
I was padded for safety. This is one of the things I was heavily padded in the back because he kind of slams me against the wall.
We didn't resist that star-crossed two people who just need a moment of rest and understanding. And sometimes that can come out in borderline violent ways. Then I had the wonderful opportunity to get to be trained by Benny Urquidez, 6-time world kickboxing champion.
Benny, I think, retired from the martial arts world at 52-0. He's like the toughest guy you ever met in your life, to be probably one of the sweetest, most kind human beings that you will ever meet.
He's got a real sweetness and a real charm and a real ease about him, but you also look into those eyes and see this is a man you do not want to mess with because he will stop your clock.
We had a long discussion about what type of fighting he wanted to do, and it was kind of a street fighting with a lot of street savvy. For a whole week, I watched Patrick. I went to his home. I just started looking at him. I said, wow, his movement, he has such graceful movement, and he looked like a cat while he was moving. I said, that's how I'm going to train him. I'm going to train him like a cat. All his movements I teach him is going to be catty.
I was having a little bit of trouble with his style because it's a very interesting style. It's all about calm and all about ease, and he's got this thing where he bounces that front leg in and out, and it's this open hand, and it's just this slightly mesmerizing thing that he would do with those eyes just boring into you. And when he stopped is when the explosions happened.
And I thought for a while, I said, okay, he's a dancer. And so what I did is I actually brought music to his home. And I said, this is what they call the boxer's walk. I said, watch me first. So I started moving around, putting on music to a beat and start making movements out of it.
So as soon as we started putting it to music, all of a sudden it started getting very cool, and a real grace started coming into this fighting style.
He caught on like that. From that point on, he had no problem with any of the moves.
Benny actually wanted me to start competing, wanted me to go on the kickboxing circuit.
He actually compete with any pros. He is that good.
Dude, I want to be an actor, I don't want to fight.
I wanted to set up a fight between Patrick and Brad Wesley's main guy to be the real punch-up in the movie. You know, the real long, drawn-out, who's going to die in this thing, because one of them is going to walk away and the other one isn't.
It's not the stunt guys in there, it's me and Marshall, you know, toe-to-toe that entire time.
When I cast Marshall, one of the reasons he got the part was he was a martial artist.
I've been in martial arts you know, since I was a kid. I used to be a deputy sheriff, and I was in the Navy, and I trained all the time anyway.
He shows up at the ranch with a real attitude. He's like, oh God, I gotta fight this actor.
Well, I don't think we really had any conversation at all until the night we started the big fight on the river.
When we started training together and he made contact with me and I didn't whine, the ice started to be broken, and we started getting closer and closer.
So we trained and worked it out time after time after time to make sure that it had a certain fluidity, but without looking like it had been rehearsed to death.
We just went, you know, and just tried to design it to be the scariest, most beautifully vicious fight sequence anybody had ever seen.
I think we filmed that for 4 or 5 nights, about 5.5 to 6 hours a night.
When we kick each other, we're literally lifting each other off the ground, but have enough control to not break bones. I established myself fighting on a river with no shirt, which was a dumb idea because it meant I didn't have the luxury of putting pads on or anything. And what took the most time on the set was just covering all my bruises. I had my forearms, my rib cage, constantly black and blue. We blew the choreography at one point, so he improvised, and he picked up this log and broke it across my back, thinking it was a balsa wood prop log, and it wasn't a balsa wood prop log.
Rumor had it that we did the fight 71 times.
I thought I got to win every fight, but I sure took a pounding for being the winner.
You know, having the climax of that particular fight be what it is was actually a result of a story I had heard in college from my roommate about a martial artist friend of his that got into a foray with some guys, and he actually plucked a guy's trachea. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And when we're getting ready to do this fight, I told Benny about it, and he said, ooh, that's good, you know. So we put it in, and the rest is history.
It's gross. I mean, for then, you know, for 1988, for somebody to be rolled over and you look at him in his throat, you could back a 40-foot truck down his throat. I mean, come on.
That was a hard one, because that was like, oh, that was so borderline. Come on, man, rip the guy's throat out. Are you really that bad?
Patrick and Marshall were fighting, and that kind of reach for the neck thing, and pulling up for the, like that, right? I was on the set, then I did get in trouble because I did laugh actually at that moment. It was very, you know, everybody's like, whoa, you know, it was a very serious part of the movie.
I had a real hard time with that one, and Marshall and I did everything we could to make it as real as possible.
King River, it was 42 degrees. I remember they checked it because everybody was shaking. And since I was going to do this, and I didn't have a wetsuit on, I had a shirt, obviously. And a guy, I forgot who it was, but it was one of the crew, bet. He said, I'll bet you $500 when he kicks you into that river, you're going to suck air. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, not only will I not suck air, but I will not move through that scene. That was done in one take, the whole scene. And I hit the water and I did not move. It was so cold, my hair hurt. My hands, forget about it, I didn't even feel my hand. My head was underwater and I'm floating down the King River. And they hollered, cut. And I stuck my hand up, I said, pay me! After that fight was over, and during the fight, you know, but especially after the fight, friends for life.
If I was going through dark times, Marshall was someone I could call. Say, man, dude, this is wanting to just weigh down on me big time, and you're the only person I knew to talk to.
To this day, I mean, you know, granted, we might not hear from each other for months, and out of the blue, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, the phone will ring, or I'll call him, and he'll pick up the phone. Hey, dude, what are you doing? And it's like we were never away from each other.
We've become very, very close friends over the years, and I cherish that relationship.
How's a guy like you end up a bouncer?
Just lucky, I guess.
The vicarious result of Roadhouse worldwide, which is what just really surprised me when I moved around the world after this movie, is it truly single-handedly changed the concept of club security all over this planet.
When it came out on VHS, it became kind of a word-of-mouth sensation.
There are people out there that live according to the doctrine of characters I've played. That's scary. That's a responsibility you don't want.
I get frightened by those that, you know, claim that, you know, it's their 8-year-old's favorite film. I think that's very frightening. Usually they have 2 cigarettes hanging out of their mouth and their kid has 1.
It was that 80s, quintessential 80s movie. I mean, the 80s, we look back now with some perspective on like one of the goofiest decades it ever was, let's be honest.
I mean, walking in here today, I had somebody walk up and say, you know, are you the guy that was in that movie? And it happens a lot. And that was I think, female. She sounded sort of female.
And I get a call one night. I forgot where I was. I think I was in somewhere close. Uncle Marshall, would you mind showing up over at the frat house tonight? We've got Roadhouse night. And I said, excuse me? Once a month we have Roadhouse night and we show the movie, and all the frat guys from all over the place show up for Roadhouse night. And they know all the words. They know all the words. Everybody takes on a character. They do this and that. So I come in one night and it's kind of like, I thought maybe, 6 or 8 guys, they're going to be watching Roadhouse. Funny. No. I walk in this frat house and there is 80 people sitting around this table. They're reciting the lines. They're going through the actions of getting their throat ripped out.
To this day, every time I watch it, it brings back such laughter and enjoyment.
But it must strike a chord deep in all of us because everyone seems to love it.
It still draws interest to this day. Well, the only word that I can say pertaining to that is I'm very proud.
I really felt like I was a warrior.
Did it get the critical acclaim that other movies have gotten over the years? No.
It's, just a kick-ass movie.
How many people can you say remembers all those critically acclaimed movies? Not many. In retrospect, how many people will remember Roadhouse? A hell of a lot.
It's the most fun I ever had with my clothes on.